Let's start, if we might, with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a quorum. We need to approve the December 1st minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look at those, or do we need a couple of minutes to look at
I'm
them?
fine.
There's Karen.
Hello, Karen.
Hello.
Hi, Karen.
How's everybody? Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Same to you.
We're approving the minutes, Karen. You just you didn't hear that. Anybody have any comments, questions, changes to the minutes?
I move the minutes be accepted as rendered.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, that is unanimous. Director's report. Rena?
So since our last meeting, we did have a ribbon cutting ceremony. We held it outdoors because of, COVID and everything. And it's Capiello Family Dentistry, opened on Technology Drive. Ralph, you were there. I think, you can back me up. It was very, very nicely done. The family was very supportive, the staff. It was a nice event. Dan Onofrio came out from the Bridgeport Regional Business Council. Vicky, of course, was there. Ralph was there. I'm trying to remember who else was there, but if I forget that you were there, I'm sorry. But it was a very nice event, and they have a great setup, and they're really looking forward to doing business in Trumbull. So we're not going to encourage too many ribbon cuttings right now. I think the uptick in the COVID cases, coupled with the fact that we're getting into the dead of winter and doing things outdoors, becomes a little more challenging. We're going to try to encourage folks maybe to wait into the springtime. I think it's just safer and more functional to do that. Now, certainly if somebody insists on it, we'll be supportive, but we want to make sure that we're doing things, in a safe manner. So thank you for coming, Ralph. I wanted to ask the commission on another note, if you're interested at the February meeting in Make-A-Wish, their director coming in and doing an update on that project in our corporate park. It is really much more than just a headquarters for a nonprofit. They're really creating a very special place there, and they have a lot of goals in terms of expanding their Connecticut headquarters and what happens out of their headquarters. And they really would like to share that with as many people as possible. I think also from an economic development perspective, we are looking at ways to make that corporate park more dynamic, more active, and so forth. And they even mentioned to me that they have, when they purchased their area, there's a big grass area back there, and they're thinking of ways to maybe work with the town or other tenants to activate that space at times. So there's a lot of other benefit. We love having them here, and we certainly support their mission, but there's other benefit from an economic development perspective to the corporate park with them being here. So would folks be interested in them coming and doing a February presentation?
That sounds great.
They wanted to invite everybody for a walkthrough, but I think right now that's probably not the best thing to do. So this is sort of our backup plan.
I'm in favor.
Okay. So let me schedule that. Pam Kehoe, and I don't know if she will bring anyone to the meeting or not. Bill, I will let Bill Chin know who to invite, but at least Pam, the director, will be presenting. If not, some other folks from her board may join her. So I wanted to, so we are required to do an annual report as department heads for the first selectman each year. And I've shared that it's just an outline format because it gets combined into a larger document. But while I don't have my annual report in final format until probably Friday, I wanted to give you some highlights from the year that some you know about and will be a reminder, others you may not really realize. But as I was putting together, obviously this year's annual report has a new section to it. And that new section is our COVID business recovery response work. And I thought it was interesting to note that we had to their new webpage, for that effort. Hopefully you're sending people there when they need resources. It gets updated regularly. It has all the opening guidance, all the closing guidance. It has all the financial resources that are available to businesses. It has all the technical assistance providers on it. And we have an archive of all of the updates that have gone out to the business community. And just with regard to COVID, we've sent 102 briefings, updates, and communications this year to the business community that include guidance on what's happening, resources, technical assistance, notification of seminars and webinars that can explain some of what's going on and what's available to them, any variety of things. And those items are archived. It's a lot of information, but there's been so much going on, and it's very difficult for businesses, especially early on, to make sense of what was happening. So we've been steady communicating with them. And I was even surprised when I went back and tallied the communications at how many there were. In addition to that, with regard to the COVID response, Marshall knows because he's involved, and Shelby and Evelyn, we activated the long-term recovery committee for the town, which I chair, in April. We didn't have to create a new committee. We just added some liaisons to it. Our town government is positioned to have a long-term recovery committee as a part of our emergency response anyway. That's our structure. We were ahead of a lot of other communities in that. And we've been working and meeting, and that committee did an assessment of short-term unmet needs. It has applied for grants and won grants, some of which we're going to talk about tonight and on Thursday with our restaurants. And we will continue, and we have talked about critical problem solving types of things that have to happen, in order to get resources out to the community where they're needed. So we're going to continue to meet. Our next meeting will be in February. I'm in the process of scheduling that meeting. But that was an important effort, and it's going to be an ongoing important effort over the next year or two. I don't expect that committee's work to end anytime soon, because as Marshall has said before, and I've said, we're still in the response mode. So we're in the response and recovery mode simultaneously. We've held we had to cancel all of our events, as you know, because we couldn't gather in person. So we were going to do an event for our home-based businesses. We had to postpone that. I have everything ready to go. Envelopes, invitations, schedules, place, workshops, but we had to cancel that. We were going to hold a broker meeting in the 10 Trumbull community room to announce our master plan for that neighborhood to the broker community. We had to put that off, but I'm hoping that in 2021 we can get some of these things back on the calendar. And obviously you all know that we had to postpone our breakfast, hopefully to the late spring, but if we're not able to assemble in the late spring, we'll try to do it in the fall. Hopefully by fall we can assemble, but we're playing it by ear to see. If not, we may try to do some type of a Zoom breakfast event. They get mixed reviews, candidly. I don't know, Karen, you've been in this world quite a bit, what your feelings are on them. But I'd like to not let the year go by without something. My goal would be to do an in-person thing. But if we can't, maybe we can size that up in the spring and see what it's looking like and look for some other alternative. But we have, with the first selectman, I have organized 3 different town hall meetings that relate to economic development and our business support and response work. We had an town hall meeting, we had 4. We had a town hall meeting on the reopening of businesses when there was a partial reopening in the late spring, early summer. We had a town hall meeting on jobs and job opportunities in July. We had a town hall meeting on all of the development activities that are going on around town, both public sector and private development activities, to brief the community. We had a second town hall meeting on job opportunities. All of those things coordinated by economic development. Those communications were shared on Facebook. They were shared. Some of that information is still available, and a lot of it is still very, very relevant. So we built, with the help of Bill Chin, we've actually we've sent it out multiple times through multiple channels. So it doesn't just get a one-time town hall meeting. It goes on our Facebook page, it gets blasted out, a link to it gets blasted out, and then Bill posted it again several weeks later. If anyone has any ideas for other economic development related town hall meetings, we don't have to get into it at this moment, but I'd be happy to hear your ideas at some point, either tonight or soon. Because I think that, you know, we're definitely going to do another jobs thing, but we're going to wait a bit for that. But those are just some of the things we've been doing related to COVID. And on a parallel track, our responsibility was to make sure that active development continued, that processes were in place to continue approvals, inspections, permits. We had to go electronic, then we went live, now we're back to electronic. We had to make sure that the community and our customers understood what the process was, and people like Bill Chin and others have helped us communicate that, and George Estrada, and work with us as a team to get those things set up. Megan Murphy and Bob Dunn and Rob LaBrandy. So a lot of transition, a lot of gymnastics, if you will, to try to get processes in place to be safe, both for the public and the staff, but yet to keep the business of development moving. We had, and I think I've told this commission before, but if I haven't, we've had a banner year in terms of permitting revenues. The year that closed June 30th, the permitting revenue projection in the budget was 600, I believe 680,000, something like that, right? And that was up from what we had done the year before. I think we closed the year at either 1.2 or $1.3 million in permitting revenue, just to give you an idea. So there was a major uptick in residential permits being pulled because people have been home and they've been amenitized homes or doing improvements rather than taking a vacation perhaps, or what, you know, but there was also significant commercial development. When a development gets approved, it takes a long time for it to hit the grand list. So you have to get in a development in the pipeline, get it through approvals, get the construction underway. Construction has to be to a certain level by a certain point in the year in order to make that year's grand list either partial or in full, right? And then and construction will usually take 24 to 36, 18, 24, 36 months. So to envision a project that we start to talk about today, and if a new project were to be discussed, and to take that to grand list could take, depending on the project, 3, 4, 5 years. So it is critical. People say, well, we're doing all this. Well, what's the impact? Well, it takes years to see the impact of that. So we are starting to see many of the projects that have come through, been approved, and are under construction and going to completion since I've been here. I came in April of 2016, are just starting to hit the grand list, just starting. But I'm happy to say, and I've said this before, that while we were dealing with COVID, the team here, all of the departments that touch construction and development, and all worked together so that things stayed in place. And I was in touch regularly with all of those developers to make sure that their financing was solid. Did they need anything from us? Were things going okay? Did they feel their workers were safe? Did they need any guidance from us on how to handle the work sites or anything like that, whatever the issues were? And I have to say that our projects are all moving forward, being completed and or ahead of schedule. So I think that we should all in the town be grateful that and thankful to all our staff that we were able to accomplish that in this 2020. I also am somewhat surprised at the number of business openings that we had, given what's happening. And I don't want to say anything about business closures because I don't want to jinx us. And I think we're going to have some of that fallout, like I said, in the first and second quarter of this year. We're going to see some of it. I think that thankfully we have another round of PPP funding coming, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I think, you know, we saw 3 corporations move to Trumbull since in 2020. This was not before 2020. This was in 2020. Amazon bought that building that was vacant for at least a decade in 2020. They bought it for $7.5 million. They put over $11 million into it. They've since bought the house on the corner for another 300,000 or 400,000. Was somewhere around 350. They're going to expand their parking and do some other things. But they moved and they've hired and they've gone through a holiday season here in Trumbull. So that is a new corporation to our community. Image First Healthcare Laundry moved this year. They opened in the fall. Okay, they signed their lease in, I want to say April, May, somewhere around there. They fit out their space and they moved in and they've been hiring their staff and they're operational. Another national company, so 2 national, and 1 international, 1 national. And then we also had Power Home Remodeling, sort of a quiet new corporation that moved from Wilton here and moved their headquarters here, come into our corporate park, and they are imminently going to be activating their space. So, I mean, the story is, you know, a tough year with a lot of challenges, but we have a lot of positive things to talk about. We have the challenge of our mall, and I think we're going to be launching that planning study. We've started to put money together to do a world-class planning study. Vicki and I have been having conversations with the major property owners regarding that planning effort. We're going to be having another meeting on that at the end of January. So I hope by the February meeting, I have some more to report about launching that planning effort. And I'm hopeful that we can have some participation from this commission on that planning process. So we have our challenges, COVID related and retail apocalypse related, but I think that we have a lot of opportunities too. And I think as communities go, I think Trumbull has had a very decent year, despite the fact that our businesses have been challenged like never before. So I'm going to leave the annual report. I mean, there's certainly other things, and I'll be giving a copy of it to you. I usually include it in the meeting when it's completed and approved. So you'll just get a copy of it for your file and your records. But I think that we need to tell that story. And so to that end, I'm working on our January edition of our regular newsletter, not our crisis communication newsletters, but our regular branded newsletter. I have it half drafted. Candidly, I've been distracted over the last week. My daughter's not feeling well. So I'm going in the holidays. So I'm going to have that out in the next week or so. We are continuing to work with Peralta Design, who does a fabulous job working with us. I provide content and then I just turf it to them, and it's worth every cent because I really just don't have the time. And I am not, anybody that knows me, Beryl knows, I'm not a designer and a layout person. So they've been fantastic. And just delightful to work with. They are the same group that did our rebranding of all of the economic development stuff. So our Why Trumbull piece, they branded our newsletter. They just presented some logos for our Trumbull Celebrates Local that I'm moving to next. So as part of some of the work we've been doing, we've been sort of starting to come to formation this Trumbull Celebrates Local effort. It is not one project and it is not owned by any one entity or commission. It is an effort of the town and of the Economic Development Department in collaboration with the Long-Term Recovery Committee, in collaboration with the Economic and Community Development Commission, perhaps in collaboration with other people like other nonprofits that want to do stuff for our businesses. We hope that this Trumbull Celebrates Local effort is a multi-year effort while our businesses are recovering to bring more commerce to our businesses and just support our community. Eve has reported and Madeline has done an incredible job as our intern. We hope she stays on forever. No, poor Madeline has to go to, has other things in her future, bright future. But she's been so helpful. And they worked on the civic group support of our businesses. They're working on, they helped me with the gift card thing. So we sent out over 60 individual and then mass appeals for businesses to buy gift cards for their employees. And I can tell you, I went to buy gift cards at some of our businesses and I asked the question. I had one glitch. I'm not going to go into it live, but one of our businesses, we had a glitch with the gift card thing. But other than that, they reported to me a lot of people coming in and buying gift cards, and several folks told me that they were referred, but told them that they were referred by the town. So that that's only my feedback that I've gotten. So hopefully gift cards were purchased as a result of some of our effort, it sounds like. We are launching a few new projects. Everyone should have seen under the Trumbull Celebrates Local banner. The most significant in terms of dollars is our local meals program. So Michelle Jacob, who's our senior center director, she does a fantastic job. And she's our human services and senior center. So she's not just over the senior center, she's over all social and human services and the senior center. Dan Martin, who's our deputy finance director, and myself are the core staff implementing the program. I will thank Marshall again for seeding the idea as part of his representation on the Long-Term Recovery Committee. Marshall, home run. So we have a startup meeting with the restaurants.
On this,
What?
we do have comments about what's going on with it.
Okay.
Wait, I don't want to interject in the middle of your report.
You have what?
You don't want to interject in the middle of your report.
Right. And so we have been planning with feedback on the structure of the program. We have some guidelines we have to follow from our funder. We have goals in terms of who will be accessing the benefit in terms of residents of the meals. And we have engagement of our restaurants, which is always a challenge. Ralph can report for himself some of the outreach he did today. We are going to be on the call on Thursday. We're going to be introducing the program to those folks who said they want to participate. We have broken it out into lunch and dinner. So those folks that offer less expensive type things like Subway and Drew Barbecue, we're going to ask them to be part of the lunch team. And then those that have more full service menus, they're a little, more dinner oriented. we're gonna ask to be part of the dinner. It doesn't mean that it's in order for each of the restaurants to not get knocked out of the box by other restaurants. It will give more business to those smaller folks because there will be a smaller group under lunch and then there'll be a smaller group under dinner. And so that we will be offering these meals to those in need, those that need to be, they're either vulnerable, need to be quarantined, have COVID. So this can include people that have, you know, special conditions that they're more vulnerable to getting COVID. It doesn't have to be active COVID. We have Michelle has a whole outreach plan. The Department of Aging is working with us. That is all being coordinated. I do not anticipate a shortage of people that will be in need, nor does Michelle. And there are other connections to Stern Village and to the Huntington Road. I forgot the name of it, the senior center, the senior housing on Huntington Road. So we have a whole outreach plan as to who will receive the benefit in terms of residents. We are in the process of recruiting the restaurants to the table. It's always a challenge. It was a challenge during restaurant week. It's a challenge now. I don't know, Ralph, if you want to say anything about some of the outreach conversations you had.
Sure. You know, one of the things we talked about last meeting was having each of us help Rena get the word out, if you will, or work on projects. And I took the opportunity to go visit some restaurants in Trumbull Center, and it is indeed a challenge. The good news is every time and this goes beyond today, where I visited, I think, 6 restaurants with specific information about the program. But every time I go to a restaurant, I take one of my business cards, and if you don't have them for our commission, I'd hope we can get them to you. Maybe Rena can tell you.
Yeah, that's a good question. Ted and Karen, you don't have business cards, I'm sure, Ted, but Karen, did you? Okay, these are the kinds of things that are falling through the cracks because I have no clerk. So I will get you, if you can, Ted, I'm sorry to digress, but Karen and Ted, if you can email me exactly how you want your name on the business card, what telephone number, if you want a telephone number, this is up to you if you want a telephone number. And Bill Chin, are we going to set up emails, town emails for them?
So we're not able to do the town emails anymore because of the way our email server works. It doesn't
Okay.
forward properly.
Okay,
It's a protection on spam.
okay.
But
So
what we've been asking on the website is to have residents send email to the clerk, or we can send it to your office and then they can forward it out.
Okay, so what we can do, if you decided you wanted to create an email just for this purpose, just understand that if you use your regular personal email, it's subject to FOI, Freedom of Information. So if you create, like, say, a Gmail just for this purpose, you know, then that's all, you know, that's the account you use. So that would be subject to FOI. So if you could let us know, one, if you want an email on there and what it is, and if not, if you want me to list our clerk or myself as your contact, and then I can get it to you, get any correspondence to you. Sorry, Ralph,
No problem. Anyway, my point is we should, to the degree each of us have time and are comfortable, go see our small businesses. When you walk in, introduce yourself, you know, remind them that you're part of the Economic Development Commission, that Trumbull cares about the businesses, leave a business card, ask them if they have any thoughts or ideas. And with respect to this program, you know, it's always been an eye opener. It's a range of people who know exactly what this program is because they've read everything Rena sent them and they're ready for a Zoom meeting, to people who own small restaurants who don't know what Zoom is. And there was one that I promised to go back Friday and literally take him through the program, sign him up or whatever is necessary, because he has no idea what Zoom is. So we just have to realize that we have a bunch of struggling small businesses, a lot of them restaurants. They are basically terrified of what's going on. And at any time we show up and can remind them that we are part of a volunteer commission for Trumbull and we care about them and we want to listen to them and help them, that's kind of a shot in the arm, pat on the back. I mean, I would say I walked into 6 places today. One of them was positive, 4 of them were negative just because of the overall environment, not negative about Trumbull per se, and one just didn't have a clue about Zoom. But after you talk to them for a few minutes, they warm up and they say thank you and here's an idea, or please come back, or tell your friends. I just think we are ambassadors as one of our roles, and the more we can do that, to the extent you have time and you're comfortable, the better. Again, I walked into one place and I had to follow somebody around a manager sweeping up a broken plate. That's the restaurant business. We're not judgmental, we're there to help. And the more we can do that, the better. So my hope is we'll have a decent viewer participation on Thursday for the Zoom meeting. I just think we need to, every time we shop somewhere, remind them we're part of the commission, we care about them, and we are eager to hear their thoughts and help them as we can. And if you can leave a card or a little note, which I think we gave out a few meetings ago, there's a note pad or system, an envelope and a Trumbull working for you note, please do, because these people, a lot of them are betting everything they own on this situation in this town. And I wouldn't say we're a lifeline because that's overstating the case, but they need help and they need support and they need some positive thoughts, and this is going to pass. And I want to make sure this commission is on the side of angels here, because I know we all care. Just try and get out, try and leave a business card. My suggestion is just don't, go buy something and pay and leave. Just, introduce yourself and pat somebody on the back and thank them for doing business in Trumbull. That goes a long way. Okay.
Absolutely. And to the degree folks are on social media and feel comfortable sharing things that we're posting on the town sites regarding our restaurants or our small businesses, the more each of us shares with our network, the better. And I can tell you that I've had businesses tell me, Rena, every time you share, it helps us, because I put a lot of stuff up on the town Facebook page. And then I can see how many people shared it from there, and it does get shared. Okay. I think the Mex on Main thing that I put up yesterday got shared 6 times just from the town page. So that's significant. So the other thing, Karen and Ted, I don't know when I'll be able to get you, but we have note cards that are economic development cards that Ralph was alluding to with envelopes, that you can just leave a note from you with your business card or send it to them or whatever. I mean, just saying, I had dinner there with a friend last night. The food was excellent. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being in Trumbull. Just little things like that, just to encourage, not to jump off of the restaurant thing, but for one moment, I think the next effort we can make is when the second round, and I know Ted, you're probably on this better than I am, when the second round of PPP comes out, I will be blasting stuff out. But if you're in a business, okay, letting them know that it's out and that they need to, like when Drew Barbecue, the last time it was out, I went over to Drew Barbecue to talk to him personally to see if he understood and to get on it. And he was like, oh, I heard about it, but I didn't. I'm like, you're going to run out of time. You got to do it, you know? So, because remember the money was going quickly and then they put more money into it. But our businesses are so busy trying to run their business, and they have, many of them cut back on their staffing. So they don't have as much staff as they probably did before this all hit, some of them. So they don't have the time for this. So maybe when that PPP comes out, I can get the information to each of you. Hopefully you're all signed up for our notifications and you get them all. And if you don't, all you have to do is go to our website under Notify Me on the Economic Development page and subscribe. You have to confirm your subscription, but you will then get everything that goes out. But if you don't get that, I will send the PPP stuff out, because that's another outreach effort. And even if they have already done it and they have, you know, they're already working with their bank or whatever, just coming in and reminding them or asking them, are you aware of this? Did you have an opportunity to do that? Reminds them to get on it. You know what I mean? And if they don't know how to do it, or they didn't do it last time, even though many of our businesses did, if they didn't and they don't understand it, just say, call Rena, she'll help you. That's all you need to do. I mean, I spoke with probably 30 or 40 different businesses during the last PPP process.
Rena,
So,
I can give you a little insight.
that'd be great.
If it'd be helpful. Actually had an update today. The guidelines haven't come out from the SBA yet, so the banks don't even have the guidelines for the applications yet. But they are expected this week and or early next week. So this is all going to be happening soon. One other thing that you touched on a little bit is the money went fast last time. My understanding is the amounts are going to be, I think, capped at 2 million now, as opposed to, you know, there were 10 million going to larger companies. So the money's going to go out slower just by virtue of that fact.
Okay.
So, and, you know, there's also still the loan forgiveness program that's going on. So you're still seeing people applying for forgiveness from the first round as well, and putting those packages together. So it becomes a lot, quite frankly. So yeah, the more that we can help inform people, you know, the banks struggle to a degree because they're dependent upon the guidelines being provided to them. They don't always have answers right away. So it is something about, you know, making sure they're informed, get involved early. And you've got to, it's like almost sometimes like working with a doctor. Sometimes you have to stay actively engaged and pull information, because it can be slow to be pushed out.
So, Ted, would you be willing, if you hear before I do, to, you know, so we have to be careful. I wanted to remind us all of this. We're not supposed to communicate with the full commission unless it's like a scheduling thing or I'm staffed to communicate. You should not respond to a full commission email. You should not reply all. It could constitute an illegal meeting. And we don't want to be called on the carpet for such a thing. Now, hopefully people would understand we're into times and we're trying to communicate, but that hasn't stopped people from lobbing potential attacks in the past. So we, if like a Ted, if you saw something, you shot it to me, like I'm sure I'll see stuff, but if you had anything that you thought was useful for the commission that came across in your world, if you would get it to me, I can get it out to the whole commission, you know?
Yeah, I'm happy to. Again, you know, I'll run it by you. It may or may not be relevant or helpful. To me, it is really just about getting engaged early. And to your point, you know, those businesses that aren't really aware, you know, helping them understand that this can be critical for them, and that they need to take some time to invest in participating is the important thing. And they're gonna have to work through a bank. The banks are where the applications are being processed.
Right. And is this round, I haven't seen the guidance, so I'm going by, I believe this round, self-employed individuals and home-based businesses are also eligible. Obviously, they may not be eligible for as much, you know, as other kinds of businesses, but
Yeah, I'm gonna refrain from, pretending to know exactly what the criteria is yet until it comes out.
yeah. So we'll have to see, but if it's similar to the last time, they will be eligible as well. We
Right.
focused on our brick and mortar businesses for obvious reasons. I also, just so you're aware, I send commercial property owners all of this information in addition to blasting it out to the businesses and ask them to try to follow up, and they've been great. I have to tell you, particularly our retail centers, they've been acting as like some legs for me to get this information out to the businesses. Eileen in Trumbull Center has been fantastic. John in Madison Village, you know, and others. They've been very, very helpful. So,
Yeah.
so
And
basically,
Rena, I'm sorry, just one last thing, just in case people may or may not be aware. Not every bank participates, and given the burden, it was a lot of work, right? That was put upon the banks to process. It was kind of an all hands on deck kind of exercise, for us anyway, and I think a lot of others. That in fact, some banks that participated the first time may not be participating the next time or this round because of that. So these businesses need to check and verify that their bank is in fact going to be accepting applications.
thank you. That's interesting, Ted. It's really helpful to have you on the commission. I mean, because you have a real inside view of how some of this is working. So that's really, really helpful to me too. So anyway, so after Thursday, I just wanted to go back to the Thursday restaurant meeting. That's not our only conversation with the restaurants. This is an introduction to the program. And then Ralph, to your point, I will be following up with each restaurant that signs in, because I have to go through the invoicing process again with them so they understand it. They have to get their vendor forms in. It's not hard to do. We've done this for other kinds of things, but it's just a lot of paperwork has to be set up so that they're ready to go and receive checks from the town. Because what will not have, they will not be exchanging money with the residents. They will be invoicing the town for under the program. Go ahead, Marshall. You're on mute.
Yeah. No, I wasn't showing mute. Okay.
Oh. Then you're frozen.
Sorry, two things now since you got to this. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I'm not muted. Okay. Number one, I visited a couple small restaurants who expressed concern about what the turnaround time on payment will be because they can't afford to carry the receivable because of how bad things are. And these are the ones we're looking to help. And the other thing we need to make clear as we're out visiting, I know Ralph was just there, since the town is the customer, these are all sales without sales tax.
Right.
So it's 6.85% because there's additional, or 7.35 now, not the 6.35 regular sales tax. The meals are a higher tax that will not be added on.
That's an important point.
So if somebody has a $50 voucher, it's $50 worth of food, not $50 including sales tax of, $4. It's important to understand that. And it also means they have to understand when they do their sales tax returns monthly, that this goes in as a exempt amount on the correct lines. So it's more bookkeeping for them, and they have to understand these are tax-free sales.
Yeah, so we have a form we'll give them. That's a good reminder. I'm gonna pull the form. We do it when we order catering and stuff.
Right. To be aware of
but
this.
just so you're aware of what you're going to hear a little more of on Thursday, the reason, one person asked me, Marina, why aren't we just doing gift certificates? I said, because the program won't, the funding won't allow it, because the intervention is to keep people from going that are vulnerable home. See, this is not, the state would not fund a business program. So we got to the business through the care side of what they would fund. So this is protecting vulnerable people from having to get out and get meals and addressing their food security issues. If we just handed gift certificates, they could go dine in. We can't track that. We have no idea.
It's a
So
transferable.
the state
That's why people
wouldn't
shouldn't
consider
have it.
that. What?
You can transfer the gift certificates and gift cards. Just give them to somebody else or sell them. And then-
Exactly. So we're not doing that. And there is an ID number and so forth that we've got all set up.
Mhm.
So what it is there will be a cap on how much for lunch and a cap on how much for dinner. And in our planning meetings, there will be, they can order soups, salads, entrees, sandwiches, pizza type menus, but they can't order appetizers or dessert other than soup, because we don't want people just eating, chicken wings, or there's supposed to be a nutritional aspect, at least at some level, to this. So these are the kinds of details that I know you don't want to be bogged down on right now, but just to give you a little glimpse. We also will discuss in that meeting our Main Street Dollars program. We're in the process of printing money now, printing our Main Street Dollars, and they're being designed by Michelle, a gal on Michelle's staff. And then we're going to have those to the printer. We're not going to roll that out till probably February or so. That is a $10 Main Street dollar thing where they have to spend 20 at an establishment that signs on, and they'll get the $10 benefit. So you'll hear more about that. Now, the challenge of activating the local meals program is we're trying to get the contract through the state government. So we literally got our contract package yesterday. So it's actually right here, contract package. So now they told us what they thought would be in the contract package, and there's certainly more stuff than they told us. So, we'll get the contract package in. We can't start the program until the contract is executed. So they promised us they're working to try to fast track it, but they also promised us on a conference call in November that we'd have the contract package within a few weeks, and it's January. So this is what we're up against. Someone asked me, I think in the last meeting, how long is the money good for? One, I don't think we'll need this time, but the grant expires December 2022.
It'll be gone.
So we're not going to need that long, but at least they didn't say do this, it'll take, do this by June, and then they're dragging their feet to get us the contract. So all of this is happening simultaneously. Does anybody have any questions on that before I move to some upcoming grants that we're looking at?
Do we have a list of the restaurants that we visited? I had a couple that I was going to hit, a couple of my favorites, and I wouldn't want to hit them twice. Do we have a master list of what we visited or haven't visited?
I sent a list out of who confirmed, and then Ralph, to my knowledge, is the only person. I don't know who, no one else has told me who they've talked to. I know Madeline, did Eve talk to you about making some calls for us? I don't know.
Not yet. I know she was away this week, but we did touch about maybe once the new year hit, going around again and speaking to the restaurant owners.
Okay. So if they're not signed on, Shelby, I don't think it's a problem going multiple times, but I could see your point. Like if somebody didn't want to do it and then you're asking, Ralph, can you just, you saw the Trumbull Center establishments, right?
Correct.
It
Yep.
was just, Ralph visited all of the Trumbull Center establishments.
Yeah, that pretty much takes care of my question.
Did anybody else talk to anyone? Oh, Marshall, you stopped in a few places or,
Yeah, but we have no yeses from them.
okay,
There I was. And one I'm waiting to hear from the owner who's actually in Bridgeport.
okay,
You know, he's got two places, one here, one in Bridgeport.
okay.
Hmm.
So I would just say if, you know, the Trumbull Center's covered, and then the list, I'd really like to see Layla's in. I'm surprised John hasn't responded. He may have been away. I don't know.
With the holidays stuff.
What Franco Gianni's, I would love to see them involved because I think people would enjoy ordering from them. So if anybody has time, I cannot be out and about at the moment. But I'm sending a follow-up email. I was going to send it today, but I thought I'd wait for this discussion. So I'm going to send a follow-up tomorrow. And by the way, when people RSVP, I send them a personal correspondence as well to talk to them, to ask them about Zoom and how comfortable they are and all of that. Okay. So any other things regarding that? Does anybody have any questions regarding development in town before I move to just a real quick note about some grants?
Sorry, one follow-up. Is attendance on Thursday mandatory to participate? Okay,
No, it's actually only for you to listen in. We're really not necessarily wanting to open the floor to anybody but the restaurants for questions. You know, we're trying to get the restaurants geared up. It's an operational meeting. But
no, I
just
meant, is it
invited the
mandatory for
commission.
them? If they're going to
What?
participate, is it mandatory for the restaurants to be there on Thursday?
We would like somebody to either listen in by phone, so there's a phone number that circulated on the email, or to Zoom, because they have to have, unless they absolutely can't, then they can contact me privately. But we really need them to understand what's going on and that there's a whole consortium. There's other things that we're talking to them about. We want to start really creating more of a dialogue with them. A lot of other communities are starting these, you know, they're Zooming with the restaurants at least every other month or whatever.
So are we recording this and will we make this available? So here's a scenario. One of the restaurants that you mentioned is on vacation and closed until the 10th. They come back and they say, gee, we wish we could have joined, and are
Right.
ready to do that on the 11th. If we had it recorded the session, they could have watched it and come up to speed.
So Zoom, I think, is always, I think it's recorded, and I don't think we invited the community television because I don't think it's relevant. I have to check with Bill if it's recorded and it can be used. No, he's saying no.
So which meetings is this? Is this the
We're doing the
meeting?
restaurant meeting on Thursday.
So that's an internal meeting. It's not set up as a webinar for people to watch.
Right.
We can record that meeting if you want to, and then we can, if you want to upload that to YouTube or give it to TCTV, we could do that.
Okay. Or what I can do is what I was going to do initially this week, I was going to hold 2 sessions. I can always schedule a second session for the following week just for restaurants that couldn't make it, because I think they, even if they were listening, they might not get an opportunity to ask their questions, or they could call me. But either way, so maybe Bill, we'll talk about getting it recorded somehow.
Sure, that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, and then we can send that out, but then we can also think about, because the contract's no way going to be signed from the state in the next week or two. So we're going to have the month of January to organize.
Okay.
Dana, this is Ralph. I want to pass on both a comment I heard today and a belief I have. So I will get that off my chest. I want to make sure, I know this program is what it is, and it's a good thing, and I support this. Don't get me wrong.
Mhm.
But these people are drowning. They're starving. And to the extent we throw them a life jacket and then tell them how they have to put it on, and if they don't put it on right, it doesn't inflate. There's at least some concern out there that they don't want to be micromanaged. They just want help and let them run their business. And to the extent your comment earlier that, you know, there's certain menu items that fit and certain nutritional issues. I don't know anything about that. All I'm telling you is my sense is, and I have direct feedback from some, that they know how to run their business and they just want customers and some financial help and don't overcomplicate this. Now, I'm not suggesting the town of Trumbull is overcomplicating this. Don't get me wrong. But I've been in the restaurant business for 30 years and I deal with governments around the country, or did. I know how governments can try and micromanage programs. And to the extent we can feed back to the state that keep this simple, or keep things like this simple, let these people run their business and just give them some help. I think that would increase the appeal of the program.
So in theory, Ralph, I agree with you that we should give everybody help without a lot of strings. But if they're in that mode, this is not the project for them, because this is public funding. It comes from HUD. HUD is the most highly regulated funding in America. They
got
have
that. I
certain
understand. The point is,
criteria
maybe
that they are
there should,
passing on, let me finish, that they are passing on to the state and to us. So we have to work within that criteria. And what we've been able to do is take a pool of dollars that really the state didn't even want us to use for businesses and craft something for businesses. Now, we're not going to tell them to create a new menu. We're not asking them to do that. But people can order certain types of things because we have a responsibility to the program to make sure that this is not something that's, you know, they're buying desserts and cakes, and that's not what this is here for. This is a food security program for vulnerable people to keep them healthy. So that's what we have to do. Now, if things like and I get what you're saying totally. Believe me, I'm for no strings attached. Okay, but I also have to be responsible to the funder because that's another part of my job. And same with Dan, and we have to comply. So we're trying to find ways to do this and give a benefit to the restaurants without a lot of paperwork. The system that we've set up is very similar to anybody who does meals for the town or caters for the town. They're going to be invoicing just like they would if they did business with the town. And there are a lot of our restaurants that already do business with the town. You know, some of them are already signed up. Michelle has people doing all kinds of things. So I agree with you on the one hand, but I want you to know that we gave a lot of consideration to how to make this as least burdensome as we could and still meet the criteria and the audit requirements of public funding that is highly regulated.
no, I understand that, and I appreciate the feedback.
Rena,
And I've been there
Can you hear me?
and done that. My point is simple, and it's maybe for the next program.
there is no next.
The feedback I have gotten is, I know how to run my business. I'm dying. Don't give me a complicated program that tells me how to run my business. Just give me some customers and a little bit of financial help, and I'll do just fine.
We're not telling anybody how to run their business. All we're doing is saying, if you want this business, it's going to come to you. You have to invoice the town for
Rena.
your meals. So that's all we're doing. It's pretty simple. And I know the kinds of people that say things like that, and I've heard them say it myself. So if they don't want to participate, they should not. They can wait for PPP money, and although that's got all kinds of bells and whistles associated with it. Or there's other initiatives like the gift card. There's another gift card initiative in the planning where gift cards would be purchased from our restaurants for another purpose. I don't want to get ahead of myself and announce it because it's something that's going on. There's a meeting on it next week. There's another organization that's looking to do that. That's real simple, just buying gift cards. Our other outreach effort was just buying gift cards from promoting the purchase of gift cards. There's no strings attached to that. But when we're using public funding, there's going to be strings. And if they don't want to participate, they do not need to.
Rena,
I mean, they will find help other ways. We're trying to use what we have and still comply.
Got it.
Rena, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, and Ralph, I've also been in the food business and I did public feeding specialized for elderly lunches going way back in New Haven. And what these restaurants will have to understand or devise, and I'm hoping that Marina can mock up an order form based on what I'm going to say. If we have a target price for the people who are going to get this, that you have X dollars to spend for a lunch, let's say it's $12. I'm just picking a number. Or you have $25 for dinner. They have an order form that they can tick off: soup, entree, salad, whatever it is that fit in that. And whoever takes the phone calls of these, that's what they're dealing with. They're things that are on their menus, but they're not taking orders from their full menu. So there's no appetizer section, there's no dessert. Nobody's telling them, change what you're cooking. Nobody's saying, come up with new dishes. But this is the approved menu that can be billed through the town for this program, because this is not a rescue our business. This was a food security grant that benefits our small businesses who are hurting by helping them be able to pay their help in their rent. It isn't a business program. It wasn't meant that way from HUD. It's different than the PPE and other programs. This is specifically aimed towards the end user with food insecurity, and we found a way to channel that money to be spent at our local businesses in Trumbull and not being spent at a mass feeder who may be in Bridgeport or Shelton or Stratford. And that's
Right.
important to know. But
So,
if we have a mock-up of an order form that
so
has categories, it
we
may-
have an invoicing situation that we're going to share. It'll all be set up for them. But here's what's going to happen. They use their existing menu.
yeah,
They know if it's lunch per person, and each person in the family system that's coming will have an ID number. The cap is, it's either 20 or 25. We haven't decided that yet. And for dinner, it's going to be either 30 or 35. So we're being very generous. They can order right off the existing menu. They have an ID number and an invoice, and they send it to the town and it gets paid.
You'll get, seniors will get 2 meals out of each meal they can order,
But we
which is
discussed
fine.
that, and that's not a bad thing. They
No,
have
that's very
leftovers.
good. That's very good.
Yeah.
That's very
No, I
generous.
understand, and thanks for the clarification, because the feedback I got in a couple of places is just keep this simple. I got enough problems. Thanks for the help, but don't make the solution worse than the problem. And I sense it's not, based on what you said.
Yeah.
Well, there's one particular restaurant and restaurant owner that says that about every government program, no matter what. So I'm never going to change his mind or the way he thinks. So I already know that, bless his heart, and he's right. And he wants no strings attached. But this is an opportunity that they can opt out of. They do not have to get involved. There will be many other initiatives under the Trumbull Celebrates Local that they don't have to lift a finger except to fill out a gift card thing to somebody. So
All right,
they've already done that, you
As
know?
long as there's a balance going forward between a program like this, which is HUD supported, and a broader based help me save my business, I think that's fine. I've spent more time on this than it deserves. I simply got some feedback that said, make sure this isn't so complicated that it's not worth my time.
I agree.
That's all.
And we're trying, and we'll hear from the restaurants if we propose, and I have consulted with a few restaurants in framing what we're talking about, people that I talk to on a regular basis, and that we have changed what we were initially thinking in terms of approach. We were thinking special menu. They said, please don't do that to us. So we've already been
Good.
down strategically testing things, the three of us, with different getting feedback. And, you know, it's not going to be perfect and it is going to be a little work. But let me just tell you, if we have 10 restaurants signed up and we have $100,000 out there to spend, that can be a lot of money to somebody that they don't have coming in the door, you know?
It's also, important that they understand that This is a cap, what can be spent by the meal by the recipient. It's not spend over and we'll collect from you besides build the town for a bigger meal, because that's not the purpose.
Right.
Because then you really get into a tax nightmare.
Well, that's why we made a generous cap, Marshall, because we didn't want
But
to get,
that's it. There's nothing
didn't want to
above.
get involved in that.
Yeah, nothing above. It's one shot.
So
Well, I think-
anyway, I mean,
At least
look,
from
it's
my
not going to be
perspective,
perfect. We're trying to do this. We're trying to get some business to the restaurants. Those that want to get on board, we'll work with them along the way. If things are a little awkward, we'll try to streamline and take their feedback and make the process better. But, you know, like I said, the goal is to bring dollars here that don't exist here to spend here.
I got that. Now, I think as
Dumping
long as we're
100 grand
talking
in,
about
You know,
regular menu items, not,
regular,
not special,
no.
nutritionally exceptional.
No, it's regular menu items, but what we're not gonna allow it to be used for are the desserts and that.
No, I understand that. I
Yeah.
just, all I got from
Nobody's
admittedly a
forcing
small
whole grain
sample,
bread on you.
pardon me?
Nobody's forcing whole grain bread on you.
All
Yeah,
I got from people was
Yeah,
my quote unquote plate is full. Make this simple.
yeah, and no alcohol, no drinks involved, because you can serve drinks to go, as you know. And, you know, none of that is allowed. We have to be careful of certain things like that.
Okay.
So,
enough said.
but fair enough, I get the point. So lastly, unless anybody has any other questions on that, does anybody have any questions about the developments underway in town? Okay,
Sorry, I did, looking for the mute button. Is there any update on 48 Monroe Turnpike? It seems like months and months and
Yes.
months.
yes, so I don't know if I reported this last time or not, because I think this happened in November, but I'm not sure. So you remember that the zone change was under appeal. Back in April, the end of April, the court rejected the appeal of that zone change. Then they took it to the appellate court, and in, I want to say November, the appellate court ruled against any further appeals. So I have, Vicky and I have been, you know, obviously keeping engaged with the developer and listening to where they're at. I expect that they will begin to come forward in the land use process further. They are doing a lot of their internal work, their engineering, those kinds of things. So they have to go to wetlands next, Shelby, I believe. There's not a lot of wetlands stuff on the site, so I'm not sure. I think it will probably require that they go to wetlands. And then the site plan application. We're expecting them to come forward in spring. And by the way, somebody asked me last meeting about the mall housing. We expect them to break ground in April or so.
Okay, any other questions of Rena on any aspect of her report?
not about the development, but what's doing about getting you a clerk in the office? I know that
We're-
you lost out
we're-
before.
So we are working through the civil service restrictions. In fact, there was an exchange today. You know, we have to hire through a list. And obviously, you know, a list sits out there long enough. There's not a lot of people left on a list. And, you know, when you're under night meetings, deadlines and all this, not everybody's always the best, you know, all that motivated about those kinds of job conditions, if you will. So we're trying to find someone through the civil service process. We're restricted in terms of being able to bring other folks in. We are starting to talk about if there's any seasonal people that are already part of the town system that might be able to help us in the interim. That's where we're at with that. I just want to mention there's a couple of grants that we're looking at, and one we're gonna reapply for 319 funds for the the area out in front of Trumbull Pharmacy and Layla's, that to finish that stormwater catchment paver area. They rejected our grant last year. We had a debriefing call the week right before Christmas. I set up a debriefing call on why we didn't get funded last year and what we could do to strengthen our application this year. I think part of it is that they wanted to see us finish the other project and close it out. So there's a group of us working on that. Stantec are our consultants. They're working with me on that. That's due January 14th. We have an exciting meeting, at least I think it's exciting, this week on the 6th that MetroCog has put together. We are going to look at the possibility of using federal congestion mitigation funding to look at, and again, this is very competitive, and our project would have to be picked within our Council of Governments as a project. So we're in the early part of the conversations. But what we're going to look at is the intersection down where Daniels Farm Road and White Plains Road meets. All of those signals, the reason there are no arrows to turn in or arrows to go here that would help direct that traffic through there better, is that all those lights are ancient, right? So we need re-signalization of that intersection in order to have a better improved traffic flow, a more modern functioning, higher functioning intersection. So we have a discussion on the 6th about using that potential grant program to fund the intersection improvements that go beyond just the lights, but that for that intersection. So I'll know more about that. Those grants aren't due till April, but we're having a startup meeting to try to get our project a sense of priority within the region. We're looking at a possible small brownfields application, and there's a environmental grant that George Estrada and Mary Ellen LeMay, who chairs the Conservation Commission, have identified to help, that would help restore a pond or a water course. And I don't claim to know much more about it. We have our first meeting on it next week, and I only have so much bandwidth. So until that fire's on the desk, I really haven't studied up on it. But so there's 4 or 5 grants that we're looking at right now that are all due between now and April. And we may look at an assistance to firefighters grant as well for equipment for the fire department. So all the grants are coming out. There's a lot going on. Our clerk is, when we desperately need to get a clerk on board. You know, just the paperwork that's sitting, that's not getting processed and filed and stuff like that is mounting up. So hopefully I'll be able to report some progress on that at the next meeting. Does anybody have any other questions for me?
Do you know where that pond is?
You know what? I do somewhere, Shelby. Catch me tomorrow. And
Oh, wait, I can wait. If you knew off the top of your head, that'd be great. Because we had done the brownfield investigation and found that there were none. So
the Brownfields project is different from this. The Brownfields project we might apply for may have something to do with a minor thing associated with the Veterans and First Responders Center site.
got it.
We might not even need that. We're just talking about that.
Got it.
Because there might be some, like, you know, you have hazardous building materials and stuff like that on the site. So we might be looking at that as part of it. But this is for, if there's some kind of pond or water catchment area that got contaminated with some weird invasive plant that's really affecting the entire water area. And oddly enough, this is what George Estrada told me, I haven't had it, that they think that somebody dumped a tropical fish. There's only like two or three ponds in Connecticut that have this problem. And they think somebody might have had a fish tank that they dumped into a water course or something. And so this invasive plant took over this area. So it's an interesting project. I don't know. I have to learn more about it. I'm always willing to learn.
Thank you.
I always say, if
Rena.
you give me the technical language, I can put anything together. You know?
Rena,
Yep.
what is the timetable for a store opening at the Long Hill Green?
So I expect that they're going to open probably early summer. maybe late spring, but I'm going to say early summer because, things are, but it's taking, I think it looks great over there. It's taking shape. The building, I think, is starting to look like it belongs there,
Mhm.
So, and don't forget, we have sidewalk installations coming there. We have a traffic light coming there. We have other sidewalks going down Whitney going in. If you didn't see the project on Whitney, go look at it. It looks great. It's, we're doing a lot more in terms of connectivity over there. Did anyone notice that the fence was down yet? Nobody noticed.
Yes.
I was like, I thought for sure we'd be getting calls. Nobody's even noticed. But a lot of this stuff's going to go to construction in go to bid for construction in 2029. Oh, I know. One last thing. We got about 8 or 9 proposals back for the Trumbull Center corridor study. They just came back. So we got a really, really great response. Here they are. I think it's 9. 4, 5, 6, no, 8. We got eight responses, proposals for the planning study for Trumbull Center. And a real diversity of groups, some of which I haven't worked with in the past. So it's nice to have some new proposers coming to the table. There's Bill Maurer, Rob Labrandy, and Matt Fulda, who is the executive director of MetroCog. We're going to review the proposals and make a selection this month for the consultant to help us on the corridor study. And I can report more about that once we get somebody on board. In fact, once we get somebody on board, we might want to bring them to this commission for a discussion. Okay.
All right, any other comments or questions? I don't think we have any community members here, do we?
No public.
Okay, I don't think Vicky is.
Ralph, I'm
with us.
sorry.
Huh?
This doggone mute button and my fingers are too slow. I don't know if I can, but I have a question for Bill. He mentioned that the
I
email.
can't hear you.
Bill,
Bill
yeah.
mentioned that the email addresses weren't being forwarded. I have on my business card a Trumbull email address. Does that mean that I am not getting emails that are sent to me that way?
That is correct. We actually removed all of those emails from the website. I think, say in May, when we discovered there was a problem with email forwarding.
Okay.
So Bill,
Cross my note.
should we do business cards for everybody and change, either remove, or what are other commissions doing?
A lot of board and commission members set up a separate email account that's dedicated to their government role. So they'll have, first name, last name, .Trumbull or something like that, or TC for town council or whatever. So it's really up to each person whether they're comfortable sharing their private information or setting up a secondary email account.
Does it require the email be totally separate, or does an alias for the account keep it separate from the FOIA?
No, you just have to have an account that you don't mind is FOIA'd.
But it would be the entire account that
Is
would be
accessible under
exposed.
FOI.
Okay. So an alias wouldn't work. Okay.
So this is kind of not the best way, but I know some of you have quite a few business cards left. If you could cross it off and put your whatever email until I can get a budget together for enough, for a reorder. I'm going to do Karen and Ted don't have anything, so I want to do them first. If I have money left over closer to the end of the year, we can do all new ones for folks if you need, a new email address there.
Okay, Shelby, that answered your question? I think he's
Yep.
muted. Okay,
Thank you.
all right. And I don't think Vicky is with us. So Any other questions, comments, thoughts? Open book here. Okay. Our next meeting is first Tuesday in February. I believe that's the 2nd. Again, let me remind you that in our ambassador role, please try and, when you visit a business, identify yourself as a member of the commission, talk to somebody there who's hopefully in a management position or not. That really doesn't matter. Just pat them on the back. Let them know we care about them. We're trying to drum up business for them, and the town is behind them. And I think that'll go a long way. So do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Merrill, second?
Evelyn.
Okay, all in favor?
Good night.
All right, thank you very much, folks.